to the Kamado Show. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Coley. We are the brother-sister anime duo, and not in a love you like a brother-sister kind of way, but as in go ask our mom, she's the same person.
This show is an anime lover safe haven catered toward the average anime lover, free from spoilers.
So today's episode is going to be about the Blue Exorcist second half of season 3, episodes 6 and 7. So let's get started.
All right. So where are we at first? These two episodes, episode 6 and 7.
They're very drastically different. Like, so much happened in the 7th episode, and not a whole lot of anything super interesting happened in the 6th episode.
Yeah, 6 episodes, like, what was just kind of a fluff episode. And then episode 7, you almost have to watch it twice because it's so loaded and so much information, especially what Mephisto says.
In one of our previous episodes that we talked about Blue Exorcist, we had asked each other, like, prior to episodes 6 and 7 coming out, would the Illuminati try to intervene Hachiro to gain those regenerative abilities? And episode 6, we found out, yes, they certainly would.
We called it.
We so did.
And now by the time this is released, probably, most viewers are probably going to be ahead of this anyway. But at the time, that hadn't been known. So I do just want to say, at the time, we called it. But it may not have quite as much of a punch because, we're not necessarily trying to do this week by week, try to release things the minute they come out. So anyway, I was pretty proud that we called that.
Yeah. For the people who have kids and jobs and busy lives, like, this is exciting and new for us too.
Yeah. And we had another question that we had posed in a previous podcast answered here as well in this episode involving Lightning, right? Because he doesn't want to be a teacher. And we're like, well, what's he doing here then? Right. So,
yeah.
Okay. So why is Lightning there at the school now that we find out?
So basically, he intends to investigate the Illuminati, and then also he's kind of using Bone and like as his apprentice and kind of his way to get to Shima, I think.
Because Bone and Shima are so close and such good friends. Or
essentially brothers. They grew up together.
Now we can kind of skip ahead now to Lightning's investigations. He's found 3 men that he wants to interrogate, right? They're all living at the Yukio and Rin's, thank you. Rin's old monastery.
Yeah,
right?
Which is really interesting. I wonder why they opted to go there and not somewhere else.
Yeah.
It just seems like that would raise more suspicion. Why go to Yukio and Rin's old house?
Maybe it was just not being used, so they just figured to go there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they weren't necessarily hiding or anything, were they?
Not necessarily, I guess, but like even Lightning had said in the episode, like, you made quite the jump from going to Exorcist just to like being in a monastery priesthood kind of deal.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah, they probably just went it out, I'm guessing. Just went it out of it. But one of the men starts to confess, but like he's quickly killed before they get to anything. What happened there?
Most likely all 3 of these men probably have the Moranoth contract on them. So on the back of his neck there, he had like that cross with a specific design on it. So that signified that the Moranoth contract was in place on this guy. So basically sworn to eternal secrecy for whatever this deep dark secret is. They can't talk about it unless they want to be killed. So
okay.
So eventually, kind of what Lightning gathered from the conversation was like, Mephisto's up to something, so we got to go storm the castle and see Mephisto, because he's at the bottom of this. He knows what's going on.
So they do visit Mephisto. He's taking a bath, and he basically, long story short, gives them this like key basically to find the answers, and advises them to go at night for some reason. I don't know why it has to be at night.
I wonder if it had to do with being able to like flash the light into that hand to solve the puzzle.
That could be.
So it may just not have worked during the day, and maybe just the cover of darkness so they don't look suspicious.
But they travel back in time, don't they?
Yeah.
Was that just not a factor? It had to be. They're traveling back in time anyway. That's why I don't understand why that had to be at nighttime.
I think it was for the purpose of the puzzle, I'm guessing, is why they needed to do it at nighttime.
Okay, so anyway, they're transported back in time. They have this kind of isolated time period, I guess, that Mephisto sort of somehow saved.
That was so cool. Like, I didn't know that was something that he could do.
I didn't either. I didn't fully understand where they were or what was happening at that time. And then eventually kind of, you figure, oh, that's where they go to school, just back in time.
So the Exorcist cram school actually used to be an asylum, and like a place where they did these human experiments, which was kind of shrouded with like Section 13. It was what it was called. So Section 13.
You could tell in anime when you're about to see something maybe perhaps a little disturbing or something, you hear all this kind of eerie, a lot of times it's kind of this kind of piano keys in this odd sequence.
Yeah.
We're getting this here, and it's just like, what in the world are we going to see? And then you see like these I call them like
different bodies and tanks.
Beds for like birthing, and just blood all over them, and
real spooky.
Like, what in the world are we going to get into? And then sure enough, we get into this human experiments meant to,
that place most certainly is haunted.
Yep.
But yeah, so we had those human experiments, and the goal of these human experiments were to like try to reproduce clones of Lucifer, and
for Lucifer. Basically. Yeah. I knew what you meant.
Right. But it just seemed like they just weren't having success with that.
Yeah, it only really worked for one of them, correct?
Yeah. Well, I guess technically two. So they found a Maimon's photo in one of the books that they were looking through. And so I guess later, if we want to jump back to after them kind of like coming out of the time thing, and they kind of get the explanation from Mephisto, like, yeah, a Maimon was a subject, and he was actually like our success story of this. Like it didn't work with Lucifer, but it worked with a Maimon. So I'm wondering if it's just because like Lucifer is so much more powerful. So like,
or more exalted, I think that was what he called it.
Yeah. So a Maimon is probably a lesser being, so that's why his took.
I think I read somewhere that he, of all the eight demon kings, or now they're known as Baals, he's like one of the weakest. So I wonder if that has something to do with it.
I think so. Because so the reason why Lucifer is having all these issues, like these health issues, as we kind of discovered from Mephisto, is that we basically, the more exalted they are, the faster their physical form will decay. So he only has like 10 years in that body before it'll just completely fall apart.
Then they're immortal, so they then become back to what Mephisto calls concepts.
So
which is basically a being without a body until they can inhabit.
Which for their kind, having a physical body is just so much of a game changer. Like having those new abilities,
The
like
five senses.
the different senses. Like imagine never being able to taste food before, like just getting to enjoy all those different luxuries now. Like that would be awful to lose once you kind of know what those are.
Right.
But when they were talking about the physical bodies decaying, this did kind of remind me of another anime, which shout out to if you haven't seen this, like I guess maybe skip 10 seconds, of the Ancient Magnus Bride, season 1. So it reminded me of the main antagonist, Joseph. So he's cursed. So basically what happened with him is like he is an immortal being, but his body is not immortal. So he was like, his body was decaying. So he was like cutting off other people's body parts to sew on to his body part to exchange them out just as he was going through time.
Yeah, okay. So he wasn't hopping bodies. He was
just
taking pieces and putting on.
Chopping off different limbs and stuff and
Wow.
just stitching himself up. So that's what that reminded me of. When
Seems
I
like an
watched
idea
this.
that perhaps hasn't been, that isn't completely new. I mean, this gets outside of anime, the Supernatural, the TV show Supernatural. Lucifer in that show, there's most bodies he and hosts that he took over. Most of them just weren't strong enough, and they would start doing that as well. But yeah, it's interesting how they have this going also in this context and as part of sort of a smaller story. But anyway, so he can only live in a body for 10 years. Apparently, it doesn't matter. Apparently, it doesn't matter the strength of the person. 10 years just seems to be either what is like the standard or the max. I'm not sure. We don't know really which in this case, do we?
I think for him, like that's kind of, it seems to be out of the ordinary. His body decays faster than everybody else's. Because when they were all together, all of the demons or Baals, is that
Baal, yeah. Baal.
Baals, when they were all together.
So you're just saying balls.
Yeah. We're immature.
Was it balls or is it just the Baal? Like that's a group?
I don't know.
I thought the Baal, I thought that was
you could
basically
be right.
I thought that was like saying all 8 of them. I thought.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
no, that sounds right.
Okay.
But anyways, regardless, so when they were all together, Lucifer was just kind of saying how frustrated he was that his body was decaying and none of the other demons were really having that issue yet. He was like, well, Mephisto, you control time. Like you don't have to have this issue or experience this issue like I do. And so Mephisto is kind of like trying to appease him and be like, okay, well, we can do something to help you here. So then Section 13 was created in order to try to help his brother, but maybe also kind of protect humanity and maybe his own physical body.
it was a good compromise. And I don't know if it was just him out of love for his brother or just because he doesn't want his brother to try to destroy humanity, because Mephisto of course is on the side of humanity and wants to keep things that way.
Lucifer just said, let's just destroy everything. We all just go back to being concepts. If I can't have a body, nobody can have a body.
So such a nice guy.
Yeah, so I think that was Mephisto trying to appease him and compromise with him. And it seemed like everybody was on board. I mean, I mean, it might kind of suck for the humans that were involved in the human experiment part of that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pose a question a little bit later that might be on a similar note once we get done talking about this. But was it yeah, I don't know how many humans were involved in that as opposed to the clones, because they were cloning people.
That's true.
So was that the idea of the clones so that they wouldn't be using, I guess, real people?
I mean,
I'm
maybe
doing air quotes,
but
real
like,
people, because
you would think that all of them would all look the same then. Like a Maimon, the body that he's in, he didn't look like the Lucifer clones. Like
Right.
he had dark hair. So like, was that a human?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I'm sure they had various clones, and they didn't all look identical. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that section 13 and the?
Well,
experiments there?
I guess we mentioned Maimon's successful experiment, but who was the other one who successfully acquired a vessel of course, also coincidentally on the night of the Blue Night, Satan. Satan acquired his vessel on the night of the Blue Night, so it all, like, I don't think that was intentional at all. It just kind of came to be.
A lot of mysteries and questions there. So I pose this question, and perhaps for you, and then I'll also for the viewers out there, see what you guys think, because Mephisto seems to be on, he does seem to be genuinely on the side of human, but it leads me to question the body that he has. Does he have to basically possess another host every so many years, and how does he go about doing that? Does he just pick a human, and it's just unfortunate whoever he picks is just eventually gonna die? And then in that case, how do you go about picking that? Do you pick someone who's like just a criminal or a bad person? You say, well, this is a bad person anyway. Or is it like Supernatural, in the TV show Supernatural? I'll go back to that again. Basically bodies they would, maybe more so for demons, but angels too, they could heal the bodies. So they could, in theory, pick someone who's just on the verge of death, and then basically, so I don't know if that's how that works in this world or not. But anyway,
I wonder how that works with Mephisto's time manipulation ability, though, because like Lucifer had said, like, well, you're able to control time, so is he able to like basically rewind his physical body like from decaying? Do you think?
I wonder if maybe to some degree, because he does have a lot of sores on his body now. If you remember from that bath he was taking, you've seen it in other episodes where he's having issues. So I think he's gonna have to figure out something soon. He might be running out of time.
Well, he was running experiments on himself in one of the previous episodes when he was with the rest of the Order. He was like, I was even putting my body on the line for the cause.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
So those are what those sores are from, but what exactly he's doing, who knows?
You never know.
Yeah. He's always shrouded in mystery.
Yeah. So if you could only have a physical presence on Earth, basically kind of like, they were, they were concepts, and then they had to, inherit a host. If you could only have a physical presence on Earth by possessing a body, how would you select your host?
I would pick somebody like very, very physically fit and very healthy.
Okay.
Then like, all right, someone else did all the work for me. I don't have to do any of this. I just inhabit a body and I've already got a 6-pack and everything. Cheat code. Ultimate cheat code.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's not a bad idea. I was, that's a good question. It was my question that I came up with, and I didn't even have a good answer for. I guess it would have to be, of course you want someone who would, a host that could like handle having like your, I guess your concept or your soul, whatever, inside of you without decaying. If there's even like different rates, I'm not even sure, like in Lucifer's case, if there's different rates his body would decay, if just 10 years is the max. But
I wonder if age plays a factor into that at all, like the age of the body that they inhabit. Like if they inhabit like a child, do they get more time?
That's a very good question. And then my other consideration would be, is it basically like taking their life and you're taking over? So if you're just basically taking this person's life, well, maybe I would, and if they can just go wherever they want, maybe they can just find like a criminal who's, just like a murderer, and be like, well, okay, well, I'll pick this person just to, that way I
get him off the face of the planet.
Yeah, and then at least you can. I don't know though. Again, this is assuming a lot. We have a lot of questions on how this even works. But anyway,
you make me feel bad. You're over here like, oh yeah, I'll pick a criminal off the street and save the world.
Yeah.
I'm over here like, I just want someone hot.
I just want to look good. All right, well, let's kick it to the viewers. What would you guys do? Again, just tag us at the Kamado Show, and what ideas do you have? How would how would you go about picking the person, the body that you would have to select as your host if you were having to do this?
Yeah, be very interesting to hear from you guys.
Yeah,
let us know.
All right, so moving ahead, we have this, as Mephisto calls it, this power structure of Gehenna explained. Do you want to explain this part, kind of like the...
Yeah, after Section 13's failure, basically, Gehenna, Bahal split into two separate factors. Mm-hmm. So basically, like, those who were in support of human life and those who weren't. Those who didn't really care if humans lived or not. So basically,
the Illuminati, and then the Order for the first one. The Order who
Order
were on
is
the
the
side of the
good
humans.
guys.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So Baal in the Order started Knights of the True Cross.
Yeah.
Then, ironically,
so it was so interesting. The Order basically taught the humans how to defeat demons. So they started the Knights of the True Cross, which, like, the humans in the Knights of the True Cross, it's so ironic, like, they don't like demons, like, they don't trust demons, and, like, a lot of them just hate demons, but, like, demons are the ones who founded your organization.
It's tricky because now we get into defining a demon versus... I don't think they really use the word angels in this series, but there's a difference between demons now and basically the Baal, or basically the 8 demon kings who, may perhaps are a step up from demons. I think they call it Satan in this. He's like the god of the demons, I think is what they call it. So
okay, that's fair.
So it's like demons, like what they can summon to, as their familiars, I think. Is that basically the same thing? Their familiars are basically demons that they summon? Okay. Yeah. So now it's like we almost have to sort of redefine, because up until recently, I think, weren't they calling Mephisto a demon, considering him a demon?
Yeah.
But now we know, like, he's not just a demon. So
he's not anything to sneeze at.
And even Rin and Yukio, I guess they're not, like, essentially they have, again, I don't want to use the word angel blood, because I guess we're not using that in this series, but
sons of Satan.
Yeah, basically.
But at the end of the discussion, which seemed to be a little more civil between Lightning and Mephisto after their little time travel trip, he was a lot more willing to hear what Mephisto had to say after that. After all that, basically, he kind of figured out, all right, well, you need to find this guy, this Arch Knight, Dr. Dragonesto, which he should know more about what happened on the Blue Knight. But he also has a Moranoth contract.
So they have to find a way around that for him to. How are they going to solve this without him basically speaking? Mm-hmm. Is it only speaking? Is that the only thing that breaks it? Can he write it down, or does that break the contract as well?
Probably any form of like getting that information out. So
it's like
they'd have to be very careful.
Sounds like they open the door for a lot of kind of side quests. Like he's like, I bet you it's going to happen. See, we called it on our last podcast episodes. One of these questions, and asked the question, answered a question, and called it. I want to try calling this one again. He's basically just going to say like, I can't tell you, but you go here, here, and here, and this will have your answer.
Yeah.
I bet you that's so they're going to have all these little openings for stories now. Yep. I bet you anything.
Yeah.
But I know it's probably a very vague and safe bet, but I bet you that's where this is going to go. And then we'll have these side quests, maybe advance the story. Maybe we could run into some fillers coming up ahead.
I wonder if that'll just continue being the Lightning and Bond quest, or if any of the other students are going to get involved in that. Like, of course, Shima's been lurking, keeping an eye on them. But on that same note, Lightning's also been keeping an eye on Shima. Mm-hmm. That little bell that he put around his neck so he can track wherever he's at. So
yeah,
basically, essentially, like Shima can't sneak up on Lightning at this point. He knows where he's at all times.
Smart. Well, and keep in mind they have that exam coming up as well, so Lightning's going to be around a while, and I would think that would give more opportunities for him to, probably connect with people, and then they eventually go on this again, I'm assuming this is going to happen, this side mission to solve this.
More investigating is to come.
So I wanted to do something just to kind of run through basically the concepts of the Baal. In other words, the concepts being the kind of like their spiritual souls or whatever, concepts like Mephisto calls them, of who we know so far. And we also got, just if you're watching very closely, and a lot of times they don't, on like, pages, they don't always translate the Japanese. You just have to see the Japanese. But I noticed they actually put some English in these papers.
They did.
And
I noticed that.
I think they're hinting at something here. So we're going to run through all the concepts of the Baal, or the 8 demon kings, which we're kind of calling them up until recently. Of course, we have Samael. That's Mephisto's real name. We have Lucifer. That's no one new. We've been dealing with him for a while. How do you pronounce this guy's name?
Amaimon.
Amaimon. Okay, thank you.
The first episode, Amaimon had to correct Rin because he said it wrong. So when they were in their scuffle, my name's Amaimon.
Yeah, I can never remember his name either. I don't even know how to sound it out, really. So I thank you for helping me. I know we've talked about it a little on this episode. And if you look closely on those papers, it said Azazel. So, and his initials on when they were going through it said AZ. So I wonder if we're going to be introduced to another Baal or a demon king here coming up soon. I'm assuming they're going to get through all 8 eventually, but yeah, I think there's going to be another one coming up here, and it's going to be interesting to see where they stand with humans, or the Order basically, or Lucifer, which is the Illuminati, or maybe some don't want anything to do with either of it.
Because of course Lucifer is our main antagonist right now, so maybe once they defeat Lucifer, Azazel's going to be the new antagonist that they're going to have to defeat down the road.
So there's a lot of opportunity for villains, or just characters. It might not be villains, just characters in general, and storylines looking ahead. But anyway, that catches us up to the end of these 2 episodes. And speaking of the end, that's about the end of our episode too, right?
That's
Caught up with everything? All right. Cool. Well, that's it for today's episode of The Kamado Show. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Coley. Thanks for tuning in. Don't be a Kamado. Like and subscribe to our channel for more anime fun with your favorite brother-sister anime duo.
episodes come out weekly, so let us know what you'd like us to talk about next, and we will see you next time on The Kamado Show.